Ho, Richard Carlton here. Welcome to another awesome day of FileMaker training. I'm here with Calvin Moserman. Hey, Calvin, how are you?
Hello, world. Doing well.
All right, so welcome to another day of fmtraining.tv, where we broadcast every day at this time slot on high definition to Discord, YouTube, and Twitch. And of course, who are we and what are we doing? Well, we are fmtraining.tv, where we actually have a different schedule every week, different days, different topics, different speakers. So I'm Richard Carlton. I'm kind of the driving force behind fmtrain.tv. Nick Hunter has the day off. A lot of you see Nick Hunter frequently, but we can't have him train every day or his little head would explode. So he has a day off. He's probably working on some customer project or something, which he also does that as well. It's why he's so good at what he does. So real quick, today, if you go to fmtrain.tv, at the top, fmtrain.tv, you can see a bunch of different tabs here. The live training tab is the schedule for the next 6 days. So today and tomorrow is a conversation about an audit trail. And so we'll get into that in a little bit. I just want to kind of cover the normal boilerplate kind of conversation. So you can check the upcoming schedule. This Friday we have open Q&A day. We are going to be showing a sample file from a guy named Neil, who goes by the call sign of NJ from Australia, and he put together kind of an expansive sample file. And so we'll be talking to him about it a big chunk of the time. We also had a couple questions that came in yesterday or the day before about master detail. I think Nick will probably be in on Friday to take a look at those things. Now, as a reminder, if you're on Twitch or YouTube, a lot of you are lurkers. So you're sitting there stealthily lurking as we sit and do broadcasts. You're little down there lurking. You can't see you. We don't know you're there. So it'd be great, so we know that you're actually a living person, a live person, that if you want to let us know your name and where you're from, that would be really useful, so you're not just purely lurking. Definitely let me know your name and your city. That is awesome there as well. On the Discord side of people, they can't really lurk. We can kind of see them in here. Of course, we have Amy, Sheely, and Canberra, and Dave, and Ed, and Bob, and Kadidi, and Jake, and another Jake, Jack and Jake, Jericho, Kyle. Kyle made it. He must have snuck out of his office. If his boss finds him, he's in deep doo-doo. We got Larry's because, one Larry is not enough. We have to have two Larrys. We got Mark, Moki. Oh, sorry, I have to pay Moki. Every time we say his name, he's got a trademark. We have to put a check in there for him. Net Lobster, who is Ellen, who does great artwork. NJ, who's our demo person for Friday. Scott Kane, Swin, Afferlund, who's a really another high-end developer, great sample files. We got our moderator, TK55678. He's a stormtrooper on loan from the Empire. If you misbehave or you need to be supervised or punished for bad behavior on the forum, he will be the one who will stormtrooper you. If you want to support the channel, you go to fmtrain.tv and you want focused, dedicated FileMaker training that's highly organized, that's animated, then we do offer a FileMaker bundle. So you go to the website here, you press the bundle button, and then we have bundles that are available right here. And these, it's different than the live training, because the live training, we're not really animated other than me waving my hands and using Clarice, our licensing advisor. This is Clarice. She is an expert on FileMaker licensing. Keep in mind that if you're watching on Twitch or on YouTube, there's about a 90-second delay from the time that you type, and then I might not be looking at the screen. So if you see me looking over like this way, I'm reading comments. It's not like the side of my head is so sexy that everyone loves it. I haven't quite figured out how to hang another monitor here, so then I'm looking up and down in this way. So, you can always tell I'm looking at something. So I'm looking at your comments, but there's about a 90-second delay. The people in Discord, it's about a half a second, a 1 second delay. It's pretty quick. Calvin, are you ready?
I am ready.
All right, so what we're going to do is talk today about audit trails in the FileMaker platform. So what is an audit trail, and why do we care, Calvin?
The audit trail keeps track of what's going on in the file. It can mostly, when we talk about it, usually the first thing that comes to mind are record edits, when the previous value of a field and the new value of a field, and it tracks who made that change and what time and date and time that happened. And it just keeps a list of all of those changes. But we can expand the audit log to not only track edits, but it can also track views and searches and really anything that you want. I use them all the time with my apps to even to track performance and the speed of a script and such.
Okay, so it's important to make sure my mic's on. It's important to point out that for certain governmental compliance, medical compliance, things like that, it's not just editing the data or writing the data. It's really seeing who's looking at the data. I've mentioned this a couple times in the live streams, but there was a deal that went off down in Los Angeles. There's a big hospital down there called Cedars-Sinai, I think is what they call that. And they had, it was a famous Hollywood person, that, that hospital is close to Hollywood, and they're always trying to be sensitive because, like, if Tom Cruise or some, Beyonce or someone goes in the hospital, then all the paparazzi reporters are there trying to figure out why they're there, and will they die tomorrow, and if so, can they have the scoop and put it on the front page of the paper? Kind of unsavory business, really. And so one of them had paid one of the nurses at the hospital to dig into this Hollywood person's computer records, and because they were tracking the views, the fact that someone, if they were using FileMaker, had done Command F, search for Tom Cruise or whatever they were searching for, it showed that this person with this login on this date and time on this computer did a search for this. And not only did you do a search for that, these are the records they were shown. So this is all is that part of this demo? Because I know we've done that before, Calvin, the ability to view.
Yeah, that is part of this demo.
Oh,
yes.
This is awesome. You're going to enjoy this. So I want everyone to understand that this broadcast is, you ready for this? This broadcast is sponsored by Amy Sheely, who demanded that we talk about audit trails, and we're happy to help Amy out. Now, I did receive a stack of money from Amy to pay for this. So Calvin, I'm going to pull out, this is your $5,000 right here. This is for you. So Amy wrote us a check to cover this. And so I feel really good about helping people out, especially when they send wads of money for the live stream. Because that way we can pay the bills. Otherwise, for the rest of you, make sure you buy the bundle. Okay, right on. Cool. All right, Calvin, I'm going to turn the total screen over to you.
Okay.
Okay.
Can you see my screen?
I can see your screen.
All right. So I've got my audit log demo 2021 right here. And it immediately brings us, first I want to just go over what does it do, and then we can look at how it does it.
Okay, well, first off, let me back up and ask a question. So let me say this. So there are about 20 different types of audit trails out there. There are some that were made free by Nightwing. I kind of like the Ray Colligan. You don't see him too much busy in the FileMaker community anymore, but Ray was a big wheel at one point, and he's in Australia. He had built some audit trails, Nightwing, which were not bad, pretty good. I liked them. And then some other people had done some other audit trails. And so this is an audit trail that was kind of, Calvin got with Nick and did some lean design on it, but there's no third-party products on this one, correct? Is this one totally free without any?
Yeah, this is all pure FileMaker, no plugins, no custom functions, it's all basic FileMaker features. But really, the power that drives it is using the create record via relationship feature. So we'll take a look at that.
Yeah. Now, for the record, I don't have a problem with custom functions at all. I think custom functions are fine.
Right.
I have a problem when people start loading plugins in, because then it's like, will the plugin make the computer more stable or less stable? Generally, it never makes it more stable. So it's always kind of a potential negative, right? So anyway, all right, keep going.
Okay, so here we immediately are brought up with a into this contact layout, and I'm going to jump over to staff. This is where we see what's going on, or the actions that are being taken. So I'm logged in as Johnny Appleseed, and we can see that I logged in today at 1:12:01 p.m. using FileMaker Pro 19.1. So it's tracking the logins and logouts. And let's go ahead and perform a find. I'm going to search for John, and nothing came up. Let's search again. And so here are all the Johns. Now, maybe I spelled this one wrong, so I want to change this from John, John to Jon. And so I selected Edit, and I'll say Save. And if we look at the log here, we'll see that it tracked that I did a search for John, and there were 16 results. I viewed the record for John Chipley, and I changed the value from John with an H to John without an H. And so it's tracking all of this stuff in the background using script triggers which makes it really fast on the on object enter and on object save instead of on using a on object commit record. Now, if I showed how we're using a global search field and it was tracking searches, but if I go over here and go into find mode, Command F, and then type in John, and I say perform find, we brought, because it wasn't a quick find, it only searched the one field that we selected, so our found set is a little different. And we can look over at this at the log and see again that 2 records were found. Now, because we did a search not using the global search field, then it wasn't able to capture what value was in the search, but it was able to give us the list of results and track what those were. So a lot of really powerful things here. And I'm going to do that search again for John, and we can look at this. So I'm going to go and look at this record, and we can dive into how it's making this happen. Let me go ahead and open the script debugger, and we will enter the field. So let me go ahead for testing. I had made all of these fields non-editable. Let me make them editable real quick. Okay, so let's open the script debugger, and I will enter into this field. Now you'll notice that this script pulls up right away, and all this green text, these are comments that kind of help you understand the script a little better. And it checks the script parameter. Now, if we look at our call stack down here, we'll see the script parameter is just enter. Now, the important thing, because the script parameter is enter, we're just exiting right away. But it's important that the script runs because we used the script parameter to set a global variable. So let's go ahead and look at that on object enter trigger. I'm going to go into layout mode, and over here I'm going to look at the script triggers and edit the script trigger so we can see that. So we'll see that we have a let statement here, and the let statement allows us to set both local and global variables. In this case, we want it to be a global so that we can reference it in subsequent scripts. So here we have audit log from, and then get active field contents. So whatever field we just entered, it is grabbing that value and passing the value enter as the script parameter. And the reason why we're doing that is we're just telling the script we set our global variable. We don't need any more action to take place. Script parameter handled the important action. Now let's go ahead and try that, do that again, and see what happens when on the on object save trigger. So we'll enter one more time. I'm just going to play through that, and we're going to change this to Jonathan, and I'll tab out. Now this was on object save, and it runs the same script. So one of the nice things about this feature, this way of doing the audit trails, we're using the same script in these in both of these actions, and on each of these fields is all the same script, so that we can apply it fast, and we don't have a million scripts running each of these items. So here we'll see it says set field by name, and it's using a global variable to set this to set a global UUID field in the current table, and then it is using a second set field by name to set the audit log field through that create records via relationship. So we'll set both of those items. And so we just set 2 fields. We set a field in the current table, the global UUID field, and we set a field in the audit log table, and that created the record. And then it's running the script one more time because we entered into a second, the next field. So you'll see it says exit. So that was it. It just used global variables to define what we wanted to save in the audit log, and then use two set field commands to create that related record, and the record was created. Let's go ahead and look at that log and see how it's changed from John to Jonathan, but it saved the name, modified, the who changed it, the date and time. All of that was captured in those global variables. So let's look at the what is it called? The script parameter for the onObject save trigger. And so here it is. And so here we're setting all of the information that we need to track in that global, in the audit log, in global variables. And the reason why we're doing it in global variables is so that we can reference them in the fields themselves in the audit log. So we've got audit log 2, that's the new value of the field. The audit log field, which field we're changing, the audit log table, and then these are the parent table name and audit log ID are important for creating the record. And then these are just all bits of information that we want to save in the audit log fields. So we're setting those global variables, and when we set the field in the related audit log table, it creates the record. Let's go ahead and look at the audit log fields and see how those are populated. So you'll see in each of these cases, let's look at the description. It's an auto enter calculation. And if I look at what the auto enter calculation is, it simply references that global variable that we set in the script parameter, so the description.
Well, I know that Nick Hunter loves auto enter calculations. The guy is like, was that one of his contributions to this? Because
well, the whole thing was really Nick's design, and what I did is I came behind him and made it a little more easy to follow and understand. I added all the comments.
Okay.
And kind of simplified some things.
There's a lot of moving pieces here, so I need people to definitely. So it's really quiet, which either means they've checked out mentally or they're lost endlessly. And so if you have a question, Jake or Amy or someone, whoever, definitely ask the questions, right? So
the important part of using the auto enter calculator, it is so much faster than doing a set field. And if we had a set field every time we changed a field here, we had a set field in the audit log, it'd be interesting to test it and find out what the latency would be, or how much slower that would go. But let's go ahead and take a look at the relationship graph real quick and see how that auto enter calculation, or how that create record via relationship is working. So if we go over here, we've got this TO5V contacts audit log global UUID create, and it's a real simple relationship. It's just the global UUID to the ID audit, and we say allow creation of records via this relationship, and that's really one of the. It's faster than saying new window, go to layout, new record,
and so
set field.
And I want to. And that's something, okay, so for those of you who are kind of wondering, we've been actively really beating on the book. I've got additional people helping with the book, and we're talking about this exact thing right now, which is kind of the difference between kind of an intermediate user and kind of an advanced user. So you have the beginning users, then you have beginning users who are learning how things work, and they start sharing the solution, and that's kind of like between beginning and intermediate. And then an intermediate user learns that there's a ton of power, a ton of performance benefit by taking all these automatic calculations that typically happen everywhere behind your back. FileMaker's always like gossiping behind your back, and it slows it down. And you move it all into scripts with set fields. That is a major performance booster. Okay, the difference between an intermediate developer and And an advanced developer is that that developer learns where they can use scripts with set fields and where there's other areas that you could take advantage of to have it go faster than that. Because running scripts is much slower than, say, a custom function. Custom function, because we've talked about the 3 engines, and this is kind of a Nick conversation, part of the lean design conversation. The lean design comes in when you go, well, using a set field and scripts for, you remove all the calculations out of the field definitions totally, right? And you run them with scripts, and you precisely control when things fire. That results in a performance improvement, as a general rule, an infinitely large performance improvement. Then what happens is that if you want even more performance improvement, you go in and you look where maybe if we do an auto enter calculation here, in a select area, we can improve performance. If we do a custom function in this select area, we can improve performance. That's really where lean design comes from. You start to learn the idiosyncrasies of the FileMaker platform. If you go down to the marketing and sales departments of Claris, they've never even heard of this. This is all like foreign. I could be talking in Chinese to them. They have no idea what I'm talking about. But as a developer, beginning, kind of this advanced beginning, intermediate person, and then from intermediates where we're writing it all with scripts and set fields, which is great, but you can even derive even more performance if you learn the little areas of where you can, FileMaker's idiosyncrasies, like why is an auto enter calculation so much faster than a set field? Well, it's just the way the engineers built the program down there. It has nothing to do with us. Is it right or is it wrong? It doesn't matter. The point is it is what it is, so you learn to take advantage of that. So this takes kind of in a lean design way to lean design to make the audit trail faster. And Nick, of course, is experimenting with another technique beyond this, which would even be faster than that. And that's not ready yet, but because audit trails always add a layer of performance, or they take performance away, right? They enhance your security. They enhance, if people know there's an audit trail, like if that nurse that was down there who got that information about the Hollywood person, she took like a $20,000 bribe to do that, okay? But if she knew they were tracking this, then she would potentially behave herself much more so, right? The whole idea, part of it is that like locked doors don't keep criminals out. They keep honest people honest, right, for the most part, right? That's how that works. And so audit trails doesn't keep someone from trying not to do malicious thing if they're really a bad guy. If they're honest people, it just keeps honest people honest. And that's the trick, is you don't want the performance penalty to be so severe that people are watching and waiting, and the spinny clock, the beach ball to go around, right? So that's the thing.
Yeah, and that's really what would happen when I used another audit log feature or audit log option that did all of the creating of the audit log on record commit. And I had an app that was actually a medical app, and we had something like 1,000 fields in one of these tables, which was probably not a good idea, but that's what they they needed to track. And when we did that on record commit, it took a solid 60 seconds for the audit log to finish. Even when we use perform script on server, it took a long time. And this, because we're doing it on the object, on the fields, on object save, then it's only running if information's changed, and it's running as you're interacting with it. So it's really fast, and instead of moving all of that latency at the on record commit at the end of when they're done working with the record, we're slowly we're putting those between typing in fields, so you notice it less. It's a smaller hit, and it's stretched out between the interactions with those fields instead of all at once.
All right, so we do have a couple questions. So Sven is asking, does the audit log track deletion of records?
Yes. So and that's just if we look at this script, I'm going to delete the record right here, and we'll see that we're using that same script that we are using to track the on object enter and on object save trigger, but we're using it just to track a delete. So if I say it's going to ask me, do I really want to delete this? I'm going to say yes, and I'll say okay. And you could do whatever you wanted in there. You could save, you could create a duplicate record in a delete table. I had a client that was deleting a lot of records that they didn't really want to delete, and so we ended up having this secondary like shadow table, or not shadow table, but secondary table with deleted records in it. So I just deleted that record. If I go over to the staff to see what Johnny Appleseed has been doing, we'll see one of these right here, Johnny Appleseed deleted record, and then there's the record ID. And we could look through the logs to find out more information on that. But you could have this description as long as you want with all of that contact, all that record information to track the delete.
Okay, so 2 more questions have popped up. I'm going to go to, I think it's Florence Hazeltine. It's F. Hazeltine. And he's saying, I have used this very well for a while, but when I make a change to a layout, in particular if I have a script that uses the field, I have had trouble. When I make a mistake of using the log function with a layout that has a script, on layout enter can be a problem. I do have to be very careful which fields I have log functions, so I need a better performance model. And so the 2 things about performance that come in, one of which I would ask the questions: can you offload any of this to PSOS, or kind of not really? Is this PSOSable? I mean, you're better, you're more familiar. I'm just thinking about this.
You're in what I'm doing right here?
Yes.
Yeah. So this is faster than doing it through PSOS. So initially, when I was working on an audit log, and I was using PSOS with on record commit to make all those to save all those records, and I demoed it for you and Nick, kind of got on my case that this was using the create record via relationship is actually a lot faster than doing PSOS. So no, PSOS wouldn't be faster than this.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess. Okay. So
I'd be curious to know what interactions he's doing with a script in those fields. For the most part, in my scripting, I don't use the layout objects, or I try not to.
Yeah. I mean, so here's the thing with PSOS, right? So if PSOS has 2 features: either you fire and forget, or you fire and wait, right? And so basically the idea is if you're firing and waiting, then I could see where you might have a performance wouldn't be as fast, right? I can see where doing it locally could be faster. That's where you fire the PSOS, and then the local client's waiting for the server to do it. That's not necessarily fast. If you fire it and forget about it, then it doesn't matter if the server is twice as slow as the pro. The server's doing it on its own speed, and you don't care that it took 5 seconds to do it because you're not watching the file. You start it and you walked away and you're still going. Does that make sense? And the server can log it 5 seconds later. You don't care.
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't know. I'd have to think about that a little bit and see if there'd be any issue.
These are all things to consider, and obviously this is. And then Nick's design, he's thinking about doing it where you writing the data to a text file, which actually would greatly simplify the speed, but then you have to do something with that text file. Because starting with, what was it, FileMaker 18, I think they had the ability to write. We've had a video, we did a live stream on this, where we were, as you're doing stuff, it's writing entries and things into a text file that's on the person's computer. You'd have to roll that text file up and then somehow get it back into FileMaker or something. Something that Nick's toyed with. I think there's performance benefits there, but once again, there's always, listen, Audit Trails is like, there's like 100 ways to skin a cat or whatever. I hate to say that because I love my kitties, but there's more than one way to skin a cat, and it's just another way of doing it. Jake Shitty says, does it work on child records in a portal?
Yeah, great question. So it does. So I'm going to say new record here, and I'm not changing the record in the portal itself, but I am changing it here in the note area. So hello world, and let's go ahead and save that, and let's see if it brings it up here. So you'll see that this note area, I'll do a new note, so you can see that we've got this is a related table occurrence, and we're tracking those changes here. So you'll see it went from empty to hello world. If we change that again to hello, it tracks it. But one thing that's really awesome about this is that it's really flexible. So in this case, if I look at these script triggers, now you'll notice that all three of those fields have the same triggers associated with them. And so the script parameters are the same. A lot of times you can just select all the fields on the layout and apply the audit log to them all at once.
Yeah, that would be really fast and easy to do. Set that up.
Right.
Yeah.
But so in this case, I'm not doing. We are tracking which note ID is associated with it, and sometimes I won't track what contact record I'm doing, and instead I will just track the note itself, so that instead of looking at the in the way that it was set up here, we're looking at the contact changes as well as the note changes at the same time in the log. And so you're kind of getting this mishmash of both of them. But usually when I would do this in a production file, we would separate those out so that you would have an audit log button here to see the contact information, and maybe an audit log button over here to see the changes to that specific note. But yeah, you can do that.
Okay, so my brain, I had a question, then I kind of spaced on this, but I guess the operative question, once again, I keep thinking about the performance on this thing and the speed. So have you rolled this out? I mean, the one doctor project, I don't want to give the information away who that customer is, but have you rolled this specific design out live, correct?
Yeah, I've used this specific design in, I'm actually, whenever I do an audit log, I've been going to this, and pretty much all of my clients use it to some extent.
Okay, and are you seeing performance issues? Are they complaining about performance, and how big of a database are you rolling this out in?
No, a lot of the users don't necessarily know that it's happening, unless a lot of times will hide the audit log button for most users, so they don't even see it. Yeah. It's just administrators that see it.
Yeah, that's a question of whether you want to show people that there's a lock on the door and you expect them to behave or not, or whatever you're doing. Okay, so Florence, I think Hazeltine says, I do not use layout objects. It is specifically a problem with a checkbox list with 5 or 6 possible checkboxes. There are other instances of the problem. I do really like the log ability, so I am not complaining, but I have had to take the function off on some fields. So he's saying that there's been performance. Well, I don't know with this specific design. I mean, are you using this design or are you using a different design, Florence, right? I mean, that's my question. Because here's the thing, there's 2 specific lean design things in here I'm seeing, and I'm not the most devoted fan of lean design because it's really kind of on the deep end of things sometimes. But auto enter calculations are a non-obvious lean design; they just run faster. The other thing is create a new record through relationship is not. It's much faster than scripting a create new record command, and you wouldn't know that unless you'd actually tested it with a stopwatch yourself, or unless you'd been watching Nick's lean design stuff. So I know that there's 2 lean design things in here. Are there?
I think the third one would be the ability to set those global variables in the let statement in the script parameter. That's a really part of Nick's lean design, and that referenced by those auto enter calculations is part of what makes it so fast.
Yeah, so I guess that's another thing. I mean, a lot of people do custom functions because they're transportable. I always thought the only reason for a custom function was it's transportable. Also, a custom function or a calculation can define a global variable, right? That's a test question on a certification test. So, but I never, until I watched a video that Nick had done, I don't know, a year and a half, 2 years ago, when he was first arguing about lean design back and forth in some of those videos, I realized that the custom functions would execute radically faster. So it wasn't, I mean, I always thought they were great because you could build, go to Brian Dunning's website and get this function and copy and paste it, and now you have this feature. But they run much, much faster. If you create the identical calculation both in a custom function and a script, the custom function runs way faster because of the way FileMaker executes the code. So Florence says, yeah, he's using this design. I use a script. I do the anchor buoy relationships. Okay, yeah. So if you were having a performance issue or something like that, Florence, I don't know what your skill set is. You're probably pretty high skill set. So maybe you found a limitation on this, or maybe Calvin would be able to find a way of improving it. I'm not sure, to be honest with you. So because you're saying you're using this design, are you using this file from him, or I don't know. So anyway, so once again, I'm trying to understand the context in which Florence is having a problem with this design. I don't know if he's doing everything you guys are doing. So I'm assuming he says he is, so I guess I take it at face value. So I know it's one of those things when people say, hey, I'm doing what you're doing and you suck, right? And I know Florence is not saying it that way, but it's like, okay, so are you really doing it the identical way, or you're kind of doing it that way? And if so, and on live TV, how do I say, Calvin, Florence says you suck. Justify why you don't suck, right? So all I can say is that you've rolled this out for a number of customers and they're using this design, right? So, and I'm not picking on Florence. I'm trying to. It's like literally like a live TV thing where if someone starts saying the F word, you have a 7-second tape delay or pause delay so you can beep them out or something, right? So Florence is fine. I have no problem with that. I'm trying to reconcile my head between Florence's issue and your issue, and if you looked at his thing, is it somewhat a little different? Do they meet, or do they off, or whatever? So yeah. Amy, questions. Jake, questions.
Yeah, one of the questions that kind of prompted starting this conversation to begin with is that somebody was asking about having a restore feature, and that is one thing that's a little different about this demo file than the last time I demoed it. So let's change some data in here and make some changes here. And okay, so we made some changes, and let's look at the log. And we've added this new restore button. So you can see what the change was made, and then you can see the original, and you can select restore, which uses which just runs a script and looks at the value in the field modified and updates that field. So I'll just select restore here, and it creates a new audit log because we need to track that change, it was changed back. So we can just make some changes here and restore those. And when I go back to here, you'll notice that those numbers went back to their original values. And so so it gives a quick way of being able to update the existing record without having to look at the original and compare the log with 2 windows or something like that. So it's a basic feature using set field the name is escaping me. Set field by name. Set field by name. So if you were to change the name of your field, so say we change first name underscore first to maybe first name, then it would break. So it is a little bit fragile in that regard, but it does bring that restore feature in there.
Yeah, it's an interesting kind of problem. I've never done a deployment with the restore. Most of the time when people, they want to know what the staff is doing and why they've done what they've done, and then they typically would go and interrogate the staff as to why the data has changed. I could see people going, oh, this is a great rollback, so I don't have to have a backups on my server, right? And we had the video yesterday of what happens if you don't put backups on the server. TK55678 shoots you in the head with his blaster gun from Star Wars. But I only cringe for a moment because I get people saying, oh, I can delete records and just hit restore. I mean, there's not a legit, really easy rollback command. Claris tried to play with that a little bit, and they really couldn't make it work. And I don't know why they couldn't make it work, but they had this page level locking and startup restoration thing that they were trying to make work. And I don't know if it was just like a mountain too tall, or if their current engineering team doesn't have sufficient talent to pull it off. A lot of us were wondering, because they invented this thing in 17, they rolled it out in 18. When they rolled it out, and I talked to them about it, it was very much like this idea where they were starting to do this commit rollback idea, right? And I don't know if the engine they use, because it's on their own proprietary engine, can't do it very well, or the engineers aren't good enough to do it, or because remember, the engineers that are working on it right now for the most part are not the ones who built it, because it's 30 years old and people have retired and moved on and things like that. So it would be interesting. I know there's been a lot of theoretically hypotheticals about Claris leaving their front endable and building a new back end that they can glue into it, like what if you had a SQL back end or something like that. I don't have any recent rumors on that, and if I did, I wouldn't be able to repeat them here. So I'm repeating it here just because it's speculation, but I know that they've thought about, like, how do we scale this thing bigger? And I know that the startup restoration and the rollback, part of the complexity of making that work was that their engine just wasn't designed for that. So while FileMaker is really great for some things, big enterprise commit rollbacks, like, oh, let's roll back the last 15 minutes, press a button, and it finds the logs, and then it rewinds them and plays it backwards and loads it back in. It doesn't lend itself very well to that. It's better just to roll from a backup, but then take it offline, roll it back up. So yeah, so it's a lot of stuff. So Amy Sheely says, yeah, the view and restore and child records is exactly what I wanted. I'm impressed. Way to go. Way better than what I'm doing. Jake says, I definitely imagine a way to restore everything this person did after this date button. Yeah. Yeah. So that's kind of the idea with that. The problem is, here's the reality, what most of you are going to find out. Most of you either know what I'm about to say or you're going to learn what I'm about to say. You build an application for yourself, then your team sees it, then they say, oh, I want to share that app because it solves this business problem we have. So you start sharing this app. And then the team says, oh, can it do this? And can it do this? And you build those things. And they go, oh, well, that's so great. You're saving us so much time. Can it do this and this and this and this? And so you're racing like a beaver, typing into the application, customizing FileMaker to add all these features. And then someone says, hey, would you like an audit trail? And you're like, okay, I'll do an audit trail. And the audit trail has to kind of audit and keep track of these previous 7 features you built. Meanwhile, after you build the audit trail, and this is what Florence was running into a little bit, then someone says, well, I want these other features too. So you have an audit trail which audits the first 5 or 6 features or layouts. And then you have to build these other layouts. And maybe they're not part of the audit trail and you forget to put them in the audit trail. They have to be in the audit trail, or you do it in such a way that it makes it go slow. And so applications frequently are never done, right? And Florence was, whether he meant this or not this way, is the way I read it, was that he built it, then he has to add these new features, then he has to be careful to remember to add the audit trail logging to it, and then to test the performance on it to make sure it was working correctly, right? And so it's always this race, it's kind of like you build an app, and then you have to say, it's done. This is 1.0, it's done. And now I'm going to glue the audit trail on the back end of it. So once it's all done and final, we like it, we approve the way it works, now let's build the audit trail. It's approved and done. Now it's done, okay? And because if you start adding new features, that tends to unwind potentially some of the audit work you do. Or maybe it's just, it's like, I don't know. It's like if you fill a jar full of honey or jelly or some sort of liquid, right? You fill it up, you organize the stuff in there, and the last thing you do is put the lid on. The audit trail is kind of like the lid, right? And then if you say, oh, I want to add this other crap to the jar, and say you have a taller jar, then you pour it on top, but now the audit trail only handles the stuff below, not the stuff above. You have to pull that out or fix it. And so because FileMaker files tend to continuously live on, if you don't finalize them, they keep living day to day. It's like, it's Amy Sheely calls Jake and says, Jake, can you add the blah, 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 or have Macon add the blah, blah, blah? And meanwhile, they're like, oh, crap, we never heard of that before, right? We need that. And then they're like, well, we built the audit trail. Oh, what do we do? Okay, we'll build the feature. Let's get Amy happy. Okay, she's good. What about the audit trail? And about the time they're going to go back and fix the audit trail, the phone rings and they have another emergency they have to run off. So the audit trail is like this piece that you always forget about. It's like the last thing you do, like once again, screwing the lid on. And if you're always busy adding new features, you never get time to screw the lid on, right? I don't know. Bad analogy. Truth. Amy goes, truth, dog. I was laughing. So there's an image here. I just thought I'd share this with all of you. I thought was kind of funny, right? So, yo, dog, I heard you like audit logs. So we audited your audit log so you could log your audits while you log your audits. So anyway, yeah, I got that dropped on me. And Florence, yeah, I'm definitely not picking on Florence at all. Florence is one of our awesome customers, is doing coaching with one of our coaches. And it's this constant wrestling of maintaining an app that's ever growing within your organization, right? That's the thing with FileMaker. It's so great. You can't do this stuff with other data systems. They just don't scale and grow this way. They're not flexible enough to grow with your organization on a day-by-day basis. It's why FileMaker is so freaking awesome. It really is. It just is great for that, right? Yeah, and then Jake just said, well, I remember my first application I was building, and then, and then so you look back at something you built when you're a beginner, and you're like, say, a year later or 2 years or 10 years later, and you're like, oh, that's some really ugly FileMaker. Let's just delete that, and I'll start that over, because what I did as a beginner, I'm embarrassed. No one should ever see that, right? So UK Lad says, I have deleted a field on each table that I set a 1 when the delete is requested. Then I filter those records on the layouts. Yeah. Okay, so UK Lad had a really good point. I didn't get to this. Generally, let me help you with Clarice. So this is Clarice. Clarice says, hey, can you make my database delete records? And you as a professional developer goes, yeah, no. No, we don't allow you to delete records. You can mark them as canceled or inactive or something. We don't delete the records. And then Clarice goes, if you don't let me delete the records, I'm not going to pay your bill as a consultant. You must delete the records. And you go, okay. So money talks. And so you want me to delete the records. So then you do what UK Lads does over here. You find a way of marking the record. It's going to be deleted. And then when someone goes to that layout, you find a way of filtering those records so they're not on the layout, right? So they're not there, they're not visible, therefore they must be deleted. So you have to manage Clarice. So thank you for deleting the records. And you know in the back of your mind they're not deleted. Or you do, or what you do is you write them to another table, which is what Calvin was kind of talking about. He used the word shadow table. Shadow table has a specific meaning. I had to caution Nick on that. It's not a good word. It's like a mirror table. Let's call it a mirror table, where you take the records you want to delete. You just write them over there, all the data in there, and then you delete it. But then that way it's preserved somewhere. So then if you want to bring it back, you can, right? So anyway, all right, cool. We will cover that email on Friday. Probably not, or maybe tomorrow if it's relevant. If it's relevant to this conversation, we can bring it back tomorrow. So what we need everyone to do is add, I could really use the restore function. Yeah. Well, Florence, you can steal it from the sample file or have Austin help you with it. If some of you need coaching help, feel free to reach out to support at RC Consulting and get a coach. Half off FileMaker coach. They'll be happy to help you with that. No doubt about it. Because a lot of people are going, yeah, I'm working on this. But my coach is helping me and I'm learning and I'm not. No. So whenever I hear that, it warms my heart because I know that if you're getting coaching help, you're getting great help. You're going to make a great FileMaker application. Like even Calvin sometimes does coaching. Cool. So what we'll do is tomorrow is day 2 of this conversation, Calvin. What do we want to do tomorrow? We're going to do tomorrow on this.
So tomorrow, what I'd like to do is take this this method of tracking and creating an audit log and apply it to a FileMaker sample file. So we'll just grab the contacts or some sample file and just add it to there, so you can see how you might add it into your app that you already are working on.
All right, cool. So tomorrow we're going to actually make Calvin eat his own dog food. He's going to take his dog food here. I need to draw a dog. So there's a dog with its little nose, its little ears, its little eyes, its little mouth. And he's going to eat the dog food this way into a sample file. So very exciting. Very exciting. Any other questions? It's kind of an early thing today, but I don't want to beat this to death. It's a lot to absorb. Yeah, okay, well, yeah, the Net Lobster says, leave the art to me. Yes, well, that's why I'm not a professional artist. Yeah, so I got to get that artwork from Margaret and the cat. I'll work on that tonight. I got a little more energy today. We had started the post-Christmas New Year's calorie reduction. Actually, I'm low carbohydrate diet, right? So it's all high protein stuff, and of course then you get like low energy, so it's tough. So anyway, that'll wrap it for today. Tomorrow we're going to come back and do it live. I'm also going to dig into what Dave sent to me as a sample file. Maybe that's relevant for tomorrow. We can inject that into the conversation. That would be cool. If any of you have puppets that we need to use to explain things, it's always much better. Join the Keto Club. Yeah, it used to be called South Beach Diet. Before that was called Atkins Diet. They keep doing that, so that's fine. So yeah. All right, Calvin, appreciate the hard work, everyone. We're going to catch you tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you.
And the guys just stepped up the whole way. Calm, cool, collected the quarterback. Great read, good patience. More importantly, great job up front protecting this quarterback to give you a chance. And that's all you can ask for.
Trying to rally down 10. 9:25 to go here in the fourth. Short motion by Amendola from the left. Brady takes the shotgun snap, stands in, throws it left for Amendola, reaches up and snacks a high throw and lands inside the 10, rolling to the 9. Ball slightly behind him, but Danny makes the grab.